Good evening and welcome to TalkSports, another in a series of program where we speak to the movers and shakers of sports in Grenada, including the current and past sportsmen and women, as well as administrators. Well, this evening, our special guest is the former president of the Grenada Netball Association, and we're speaking about immediate past president of the Grenada Netball Association, Glynis Roberts, who should be with us momentarily. And we'll be discussing a number of issues as relates to her tenure with the Grenada Netball Association. And we hoping that she will be able to join us as soon as possible. But so we wait for her to link up with us, and we'll be discussing her tenure with the Grenada Netball Association. As you recall, the Netball Association held its annual general meeting last week, and a new president was elected, as Glennis did not seek re-election. So we want to find out from Glennis, after her tenure with the Netball Association, what basically um, transpired with the Grenada Netball Association. As you recall, Glennis has been with the Netball Association from since let me see, I think it's 2015. She was elected as the president of the Grenada Netball Association, and then she also was re-elected. Yes, she was re-elected. I got it, I think it was 3 consecutive terms of 2 years. And she did not seek re-election in its last annual general meeting. Um, there was some contentious issues, for what I understood, in terms of the protocols and holding the meetings and getting things done based on what was happening um, with the coronavirus. But we want to look on the side of what has been achieved during those years. As you recall, Grenada had rankings. It was, ranked, in the top, at one point in time, the top 25 of the netball playing countries of the world. And then for some reason fell out of the ranking because they have not been playing international netball for a while. You have to be playing netball, and because they were not playing netball, it meant that Grenada fell off the rankings. So that's one. Also, I should tell you that we continue with our discussions this weekend with our clubs, and Hurricane Sports Club, the pride of St. Mark, or what you would probably want to say Victoria. They will be in the spotlight this weekend. And hopefully next weekend, we should have the Royal Grenada Police Force Sports Club, the RGPF Sports Club. So we're trying to concentrate on clubs and proper club structures and how we can ensure that, there is some improvement in the club structure, as well as sports administrators in Grenada. So we'll be speaking with Hurricane Sports Club, find out about the rich history of that club in the parish of St. Mark. It has been one of the dominant clubs, especially in football, for quite a while. And we'll be speaking with officials from the Hurricane, and then the following weekend, the Royal Grenada Police Force. So we still wait for Glynis Roberts to make the connection with us as we discuss her tenure with the Grenada Netball Association. As I indicated, a new executive was elected at the annual general meeting. It's now led by Alison Miller. Alison Miller is now the new president of the Grenada Netball Association, and no doubt she will have quite a lot to get into the to get netball, kick-started once again, and we're hoping that we'll give her some time to get her feet wet, and then we'll speak to her in terms of what she plans to do with netball in Grenada. So we'll give her some time. She just getting herself her feet wet, and hopefully we will be able to have her, um, you know, in the chair, very soon. As soon as I can see Glennis. I've not seen her yet, but I know she's on. She just has to get her camera going. Then we'll be able to see her. Um, we will make that connection. But as I indicated, Glennis has been the helm of the Grenada Netball Association for the better part of probably 6 years, you know, and she decided not to seek re-election, and therefore there is a new president who took up the honors of the Netball Association. Let me see if I can give you the new executive. Actually, is as I said indicated, is led by Alison Miller. That's Alison Miller, formerly of River Road. She is the president. Her vice president is Jennifer Cato. The secretary is Jacqueline Belfon. The assistant secretary is Kenisha Nelson. The treasurer is Sheldon Phillip. And the public relations officer is Liebert Alexander. Well, we really hope that they will be able to get things, cracking, as we will see. Let's see if I can hear seeing her. Once we can see her, we will be able to make the connection with her. Yeah. So just getting those little technical things organized. So yeah. So Alison now is the new president of the Grenada Netball Association, as indicated. And the first order of the day, obviously, will be to ensure that the executive gets netball back on the table as soon as we get past this the pandemic. And even during the pandemic, how probably the executive can weave its way around in terms of holding the sport. Well, we know netball is actually is a contact sport, so it's not like cricket, for example, or even football, but netball is the case with basketball. They are contact sports, and it would be probably difficult to get the authorities to give them the sort of permission that they need to get it going. So we are hoping that we can hear from the Netball Association in the very near future. So what we'll do, we'll just take a short break, and we'll be right back, hopefully with Glennis, as we get her technical things sorted out. Okay, folks. So welcome back. So we're still trying to sort that out with Glynis Roberts in terms of her video. We're hearing her, but we're just not seeing her. It's more or less video. So we want to really see her, and it would be kind of distracting just to hear her. And we didn't really cater for just an audio feed, So we're still working on that. But as I indicated, the focus on clubs will continue in the coming weekends. With last week we had Trailblazers of St. David. This weekend, Independence Weekend, will be featuring Hurricane Sports Club. The following weekend would be the Police Sports Club. Right, that's the Royal Grenada Police Force, their sports club. They will be on, and then we'll hopefully continue with other clubs in the near future. Okay, so as I indicated now, we have Glynis Roberts, who is the immediate past president of the Grenada Netball Association. And she did not seek re-election for another term, and the new president has been installed. That's Alison Miller. And what I'll do now is welcome Glynis Roberts to the program. This will be her second time on the program rather. It is the second time in 4 months. I think it was 4 months ago she was on the program, but sometime last year. Let me say good evening. Good evening to you, Roberts.
Good evening, Bascom, and let me apologize for technology. It's not that I'm very old, but it's just that the internet giving some trouble. But thanks for your patience, and also to those who are listening in. My apologies.
So you are on now, and let's discuss, as I indicated, that you served as president of the Grenada Netball Association for the better part of 6 years. And
yes.
You did not seek re-election. So let's start with the did not. Why you did not seek re-election? That's before we go into probably the tenure and your achievements and successes. Why Glynis did not seek re-election? Probably after a successful tenure, I would say.
Thank you very much. I did not seek re-election, honestly, because there was quite a bit of tension among us who were serving at the time, and different types of tension. And then I realized that, listen, as I say to people all the time, I listened to Bob Marley quite a bit, particularly in my younger age, and even now. And there was a particular song which says, if he who fights and run away lives to fight another day. So I thought, no matter what you do, you're meeting difficulties. So let's just give it a break and not seek re-election, and let the will be done of those who wants to get us out of the chair.
So you basically saying that there were, I don't know if I can put it mildly, but there were forces against you and your executive that basically, I have to be plain, that wanted you out as president?
I believe so. They say actions speak louder than words. So I could say so. And, not at pointing fingers, but like everything else, people, sometimes want change. People believe that, rather than let's harmonize, let's chop and change. So that's the will. So the will prevailed. Because I really had to say at the end of the day, because Bascom, life is about hills and valleys. And at this particular time in my life, having my 4 children around me and my 6 lovely grandchildren, sometimes you have to take a cue and say, listen, this is time you have to spend precious, because COVID has taught us quite a bit. It's a time where the world has stopped. We have to reflect on where we are, where we've been, and where we will go. There are quite a bit of uncertainties. So, there's no harm for me in saying, hands up, no problem. I'm no longer interested this time around.
Okay. So I know there were initial talks on the whole issue of whether or not netball should be played, and while you were president, you were in dialogue, consultation, whatever it is, with the authorities, and in this regard, the health authorities who were providing the protocols for whatever activities, social engagement, sporting engagement, whatever it is. So where were you at that point in time regarding the discussions for whether or not netball could be staged, etc., etc.?
Okay, well, from the onset, we had what you call lockdown. So within the lockdown, every country had its own restrictions. Sports couldn't be played because, for one, netball is a contact sport. The distance that you stay from each other when it's infringement is 3 4. For COVID, the set space is 6 feet distance. Added to that, you are asked to wear a mask. Netball is constant running, constant contact. So it has been difficult. Then, there was talk that they were playing netball in River Road and they were doing it socially and all of that, when the protocol said there should be no sports. You had to get permission. Now, football apparently or soccer got its permission. And simply because, it's 11 players on a massive field, much more than the netball court. And added to that, they virtually chase the ball. So you run into the ball, you tackle sometimes or whatever. Nevertheless, I don't think that sat well with a lot of people, because I believe in following the rules that are stipulated and set out. And that, in speaking to the people in the ministry, they could not give me a time as to when we can start. And added to that, Bascom, our international body, all tournaments, CNA under 16 was cancelled. A qualifier for the under 21 of AFNA was cancelled in Trinidad and Tobago. Even the World Championship was cancelled. It was put to December, but cancelled to December 2021, if it will happen. And we are seeing what's happening around the world. Look, Jamaica was supposed to do a series in England come January. That had to be cancelled as well because there's a lockdown. So, I did not bring the pandemic. The pandemic came. But we have to see this. But how could you, when you have such restrictions, health restrictions, with persons' lives?
So you're saying too that you have no regrets in terms of your decision, in terms of adhering to the protocols from
Not at all.
the Ministry of Health, okay?
Yes,
even though, right, and even though it cost you the presidency.
Well, you
I think we're having a little okay. Yeah, I think you are just Sister Roberts, we just had a little technical problem with your video and your audio. So if
okay,
you can just I was asking you the question rather than you had no regrets in terms of observing the protocols of the Ministry of Health,
No.
even though it cost you the presidency of the Grenada Netball Association.
Yes, yes, I have no regrets, because at the end of the day, when you are in leadership position, you need to take responsible decisions, and I have no regrets with that.
Okay. We'll probably come back to some of these issues in a moment, but I want us to discuss a little on the whole issue of your tenure as president of the Grenada Netball Association. As we recalled, it was probably 6 years ago when you assumed the presidency, and in fact, you were here in New York at the time.
When you told me.
Right.
When you told me,
right,
if I knew I was president, yes.
Right. And immediately, I think, thereafter, even before returning to Grenada, even before starting your presidency, you started doing things as president, including, I think it was a bingo or something like that. So fundraising activities.
Yes, a bingo.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Fundraising activities. So let's look at your tenure with it as president.
Yeah, and let me start by saying, leading up to my being president in 2015, in 2014, the minister at the time, Honorable Emlyn Pear, she had a symposium, first a meeting in her office of people who were interested in netball, because netball was is a bit of crisis. I was one of the persons, together with a lot of other different people from organizations, Miss Simpson, Miss Stevens, Kathy and Williams, quite a number of people. Then there was a symposium held by Ian Blanchard, who used to be the manager of Cable and Wireless. And he came in and did something at the stadium where Vida Bruno Victor was there as well. Quite a number of people, Pecos from Gov, quite a number of people. And in her quest to get netball back, I guess hence my name came up as president, and I ably accepted the position. So from there, as I said before, you were the one said to me, listen, the election came and you are the president. So once I started working with the persons who I had contact with, then we thought, what is the best way forward? I had a conversation with the coach that we currently have, which is Oberon Peterson Natty, who is somebody I would have met in St. Vincent in 1993 as a player, because she was very friendly with the Grenadian camp. So she remembered who I am, and she said, why not? I can come for one weekend to work with you and the girls. So we actually did a bingo in my friend's basement, Ansel Langine, Asha Nelson, quite a number, but Janice Celestine. I remember Janice Celestine saying she never win anything in her life, so we gave her a prize for not winning. And most of the tokens were given by past netballers. Flying Turkey was there as well. Quite a number of people, Roy Lane, Raymond Lane, Sonia Lane. They all came out to help. And we were able to raise funds because at the time, I think I'd come down, met with the executive, and went back up for the birth of my grandson, Taji. And we held the bingo. Then coach said she can come for a weekend. So we raised enough money to pay a ticket from Jamaica to Grenada and her per diem for the weekend. So she came and she worked with the girls for the weekend, and she said, listen, these girls are brilliant girls. They can make it. So we can work towards. So the first tournament was the under-23 in Antigua. We went to that, won the championship. After that, it was qualifiers in 2016 for World Championship in Botswana for the under-21. It was the first qualifier for under-21. Because long ago, what would happen is that the countries who have money will just pay and go to the under-21 tournament. So that happened, but prior to that happening, Desiree Stephen and I, who was the treasurer at the time, it was the first time that JetBlue was flying into Grenada. So we were told, I remember speaking to the president of the INF, which is Honorable Molly Roan, and she said to me, Glennis, welcome, but there will be Congress in Australia. So I said, not by a long shot we'll be able to come to Congress. She said, no, try. Go to the Olympic Committee. They have money for women in sports. They'll be able to help. So I did go to the Olympic Association, and ably as usual, Mr. Lahey and Ms. Vida Bruno Victor, together with Charlie and all the executive members, they supported us. They said, okay, we can meet you halfway. We can give you X. And we went to Australia, Des and I. It was a wide eye opener for us, being at Congress and seeing netball in its glory. Having been there as part of the president, we were in a VIP box. I was in a VIP box with other presidents, was invited there. And some ladies joined the table and, start to let's introduce and find ourselves. And it was the people from Netball Europe. So they said, oh, you're from Grenada. We've never interacted with anyone from Grenada. We would like to invite you to come to our tournament in England. That year it was Newcastle, because it usually changes from different cities. And there I wrote the minister, I said, listen, we got an invitation. I sent a note also to the executive to say, listen, we're getting an invitation to go to What's It Take. And the minister was supportive. She said, why not? We will try and help. And, we worked, and the rest is history. We went, won the invitational and our ranking. We went into ranking in the world. And following that, we had, after Newcastle in 16, we also had to go to St. Martin to do the qualifier for Botswana in 17. We went, the girls worked very hard, and we qualified together with Barbados and Trinidad and Tobago to go to Botswana. So that was our success in terms of the under 21. We went to, after that, we went to 2018. We hosted a tri-series with St. Vincent, St. Lucia, and ourselves. And again, that was not only for us, but it was also to help St. Vincent with their ranking. We always try to do those things. In terms of the under 15, as I said before, under 23 tournament, in 2015, we won that one in St. Kitts. St. Kitts we went. Then in St. Vincent, we went 2016. 2017, Grenada hosted. We did not participate in 2018 because we had qualifiers, plus we had a trip to Hong Kong. And in 2019, that tournament was changed from being under 23s to being a senior ranking tournament. Now, during my tenure as president of the OECS, together with Rufina Paul and Karen from Antigua and Doris from St. Vincent, we always wanted a higher standard of play. And how, in other words, netball is so expensive to tour that when you go to tournaments where ranking isn't part of it, it kind of defeats the purpose, because so the OECS seniors under 23 at the time, you never got points for ranking. And when we say points for ranking, it just means that you had neutral umpires set by the International Netball Federation. And with that, you can also say
Yeah.
Sorry.
All right. Okay.
Somebody fix me.
Yeah, the instruction went ahead. Yeah, but you were making the point about the OECS tournament, because I think that is one way where in one way or the other that Grenada not just represented, but to some extent dominated for some point in time. There was some level of domination from Grenada in terms of the OECS tournament, the under 23.
Yes. And that's from 15, 16, 17. And well, 19, it was a senior ranking one, and we actually won that one. That one was really dramatic in that I think we left St. Vincent winning by, what do you call it, goal difference. But after it was retabulated, we were actually the clear winners for that tournament. So that's in 2019. And then we had a tour to Wales in 2019 in June, just before World Cup. That one was just with Wales, but Wales had a summer series with Malawi, Trinidad, because they were all going to World Cup. We had a qualifier in Barbados where we came third, but because it's only 3, you have to come first or second to be able to make the tournament.
Yeah, I recall that one in terms of Grenada not being able to get into that. But in all of that, I know fundraising has been a very crucial, factor in terms of Grenada's participation in these tournaments, and that's where I think Sister Glynis Roberts had been able to excel in terms of fundraising, and probably to an extent excel to the point where it probably also cost you the presidency, because you have been accused of doing things on your own at times, even though if you don't do it, then no one does it. Okay, but let's look at the issue of fundraising, because I know many times you get the girls, sometimes the players themselves involved in fundraising activities, whether it was the started with the car wash and a lot of things, the fry, the bakes and the fish and chicken and all these things, whenever tournament being played, whenever there's a sporting event, even at the stadium, for example, ensuring that there is some sort of fundraising activities to raise funds for the girls to participate in these regional international tournaments.
Yes, and I have to give credit too for when we did the stadium to Minister Emlyn Pear. I remember when the stadium was reopened, she actually gave us the booth, so that we were able to do Carifta games, intercall, different things where the girls would go through the crowd with popcorn and stuff. Some people would say, oh, I'm not buying popcorn because all Glennis want to do is travel. But I want to stick a pin here, Bascom. I actually worked with the European Union, which is a foreign mission, for 22 years. The head office was in Belgium. So that alone.
And the regional office in Barbados.
And the regional office in Barbados. So I just want to stop here just to say that. And just to clear the myth that who would not want to travel? Who is a Christian and believe that the Lord made a beautiful world and you would not want to travel? But guess what? I didn't want to travel alone. I wanted to show fellow young people like myself who got an opportunity to fly, to show them through their talent how far they can get. I always say to people who try to understand the sport when I do my fundraising, that the children that plays netball are poor people children like me, who on their own may not have been able to make a trip. So I try to say to people, fundraising for me, as a convent girl, we were always taught to work hard for whatever you need, and work not seek by only asking people, but you yourself showing that you can be a part. I never felt because I was a government minister it was too hard for me to stand up behind the netball counter to sell. Some people never wanted to help because they figure, okay, if we're raising funds to travel, why the girls are not there at night to sell? But for me, I found that if I want if we want the girls to represent Grenada and excel, they have to train rigorously. They can be eased up of something like selling in the night because sometimes they play for their teams and they don't all live, we don't have a house for all of them to stay in. So they all have to commute at night. Sometimes we raised funds for them to help them with their bus fare because the ministry thankfully always gave us the buses to take them home at night. But when they come into training, they all had to pay. Some of them had to spend like $15 to come down to town, taking bus to come down to training. I wished at the time that we could have given them supper or, things like that. But what we tried to do was to have camps, and in those camps, we would get other netballers like Gloria Payne Banfield, Michelle Hercules to come and give talks on, the way they should carry themselves and all of that. And in fundraising, Bascom, I say to them all the time, in Grenada, our fee structures as subscription to the association by clubs, and we have 15 maximum team clubs, is $25 a year. $25 a year, do the math, we cannot do much. Hence the reason why we have a constitution that we need to review and hopefully change the fee structures so that our membership can take ownership of the sport. We are not as lucky as football, who have FIFA. Yes, we have the International Netball Federation. However, they do not give us subvention like FIFA or even the Olympic Association, how they get from the Olympic IOC. The Olympic Committee, I must say, do support our sport, even if it's not an Olympic sport. So I want to give kudos to Mr. Lahaye and Mrs. Vida, Bruno, Victor, and Charlie, Jane, all those who continue to believe in the sport and believe in our girls. So fundraising for me is key, and I believe there are many ways we can do lots of things to get what we need.
Okay. All right. So
I also wanted to speak a bit about our players and during our tenure, what we were able to what they were able to accomplish, because when we started,
just before you continue, I'm not seeing your head. I'm just trying to.
Oh Lord.
Yeah.
Better?
Right. Yeah, it's better now. Yeah. If you could just look into it at times so you can at least see yourself. Yeah. You were talking about the players, individual players themselves.
Yes, and what they would have accomplished in terms of, let's say, in terms of caps for Grenada. Yes, Terry's helping me. Terry's helping me to fix up. Better?
Yeah, but and yeah, and you're talking about players as well, because I'm looking here and where I see that in preparation for Botswana 2017, where
yes.
girls had their T-shirts and they were training. I recall that there are a number of players who were preparing for Botswana.
Okay? For Botswana, yes, and that's what we try to do, was to give them that professional touch. And I also want to give lots of kudos to Coach Oberon Peterson Natty, because once she came on board, she was the one like holding our hands to introduce us to various aspects for the athletes. For example, I never knew it was that important for athletes after training rigorously to do ice bath. So I remember when she said, moms, we have to do ice bath. I said, well, what is this ice bath? She said, well, we have to put the girls into ice so that their muscles can be regenerated nicely. So what we did, creative, we didn't have a bathtub or stuff like that as yet. So what we did, we had a big blue drum filled with ice and water, and she put them in. It was scary for them in the beginning, but then they understood. I remember also one of the person that helps us in netball, Marlene from River Road, Marlene gave us a tub so that the girls could use. but we never had a chance to install the tub. So hopefully going forward, this new executive will do things like that. Once netball would be able to be played again soon time.
Yeah. And while we're on that aspect there, junior tenure, we noticed that Grenada got into the rankings, the international rankings, and
Yes.
for a while was in the, I think it was in the top 25.
Top 20. Yes,
Well,
we actually
22,
now 22nd. I think we now 22nd still. We 22nd or 23rd.
yeah.
St. Lucia, St. Vincent, Grenada. We are now in that. Yes,
And the improved rankings at the time were due part to the participation in these international tournaments.
right. In the Netball Europe one gave us a big push, and then going to Hong Kong also helped us. We came third there, and actually participating and playing with teams that are ranked higher than you, that also helps. But what we have recognized as president, like, Barbados, Trinidad, and so, is that we need to find a way to play each other more. And with that, our ranking and our competitiveness will get better.
What's about netball on the domestic front in terms of tournaments, in terms of improvements, in terms of coaching, all these aspects of the development of the sport on the domestic front? What were you able to achieve during your 6 years at the helm?
Yeah, one of the things I'm happy we introduced was men netball as part of GNE. And it's because usually when we go to tournaments, we train with the guys. The guys are always there to practice with the girls so that they can be tough. And men have a unique skill of the way they I should say, heave at the ball, and they defend well, but the girls always win the game. So from 2018 and 19, we were able to have 2 men team playing, and to me, that was a great achievement. We had volcanoes. So we were not able to do grassroots as we would have liked. We started doing outreach in St. David's. We went to St. Mark's. We had a team from St. Mark's come in as well. So we were not able to do as much in that area as we would have liked. But I think it's nothing that cannot be fixed. So moving forward, I think the new executive will have that as part of it, and hopefully with the 2, which is grassroots and the foreign tournaments, we should be able to keep good.
There was once upon a time that folks and in some instances netball fans didn't want to have anything to do with the sport, simply because and I recall myself covering netball during those years, that because of there was this I want to be very careful of what I'm saying, because there was there was something about netball that keeping fans away, right? Keeping the fans away from netball. Competitive matches will be playing, and top netballers will be there, but just the fans not there. And there was something, there were complaints at times that the girls were giving trouble. Some of them were fighting. There was something about netball during those years. Then came this resurgence in netball, where people were coming back out to look at netball. You saw in the nights, you see all these people around netball again, and things like that. So do you foresee that in probably past the pandemic, that we will see that interest in netball, as was the case probably about a year or 2 ago?
I believe so. Once we stick to the guards, and let me put it this way, frankly, Basky. For me, I think we let petty stuff keep us away from our commitment. And we let little personal issues get in our track. Now, for me, and you made a point earlier that you're accused of wanting to do things for yourself. But as a leader, if I'm leading a grouping, and in terms of execution, when I look around, I see it's me alone, I have to hold the mantle for it not to crash. So I'll give you another example. During our tenure, one of the things I realized when we went to send kids for the first time, although we won the trophy, the girls got nothing to go home. Nothing. Not even a medal to say, okay, we got gold. So what we did, we bought them and we gave it to them. But then I thought further, what can we do to be able to give them something so that they can show their mommy, listen, we played and we won a tournament. So we introduced what we call an award ceremony. We agreed we would not have it every year, we'll have it every 2 years. And we were able to have that ceremony twice during my tenure, which is in 2017 and 2019. We had the first one in Belmont Estate, where we got, great support from Belmont Estate, Huggins, Hubbard, lots of help, National Lottery. Then we had the second one. We thought we'd do the first one up, second one down, and do that sort of thing, because the girls who travel from the outer parishes always have to come down to train, so we thought we'd meet them on their turf for something. And then we did the second one at Aquarium in 2019. In actual fact, Basky, I'm still handing out those trophies because what we do, try to use creative ways of doing it. The ministry, the forest ministry in the forestry division, they will give me Grenada wood, which is blue maho. And then I get a craftsman from Cali, Mr. Thomas. Brilliant. He just looks at the ball and he carves it. And with that, we are able to give it to them so that they have, these are your trophies for the accomplishments you have done for your country. Now, one of the downside of all of this is that we were not able to reward our girls with money. And I think that too was sort of getting to them in that, because, in some countries, when you make the national team, you actually get cash if it's 100 US, 200 US. But in our case, sadly, we were not able to reach to that level as yet. And then you will hear the arguments from people like, let's say, Jennifer Woodruff, who would have played long ago, and Eve. And they'll tell you when they played long ago, their parents had to buy their uniform, buy their shoes, buy everything. They'll tell you where to go in the store to purchase the cloth if you wanted your child to make the team. But we are in a modern time, and you will want to do the best to help and improve so that when they can look back at their life and say, listen, I've done this. This was a proud moment for me, wearing my national colors for my country as we celebrate independence in a few days.
Mm-hmm. But aside from that, individually, there were a number of players you believe that would have moved through the ranks. You would have seen them probably, from probably 14, 15 years, who moved through the ranks even up to the senior national team as well.
Yes. Well, we had one child in particular.
I think we having a
we
problem
missed
with
it. Yes.
Yeah. So you were saying one child in particular?
Well, one child in particular I could spot that came to netball not being able to, not knowing what is netball was Kelsey.
That's Kelsey from
Kelsey,
Carriacou. Is she from
no,
Carriacou?
Kelsey,
Oh,
no, she from New Hampshire, but she was living on H.A. Blaze Street. Kelsey go to J.W. Fletcher. She went to Botswana as well, but she started playing netball just, in actual fact, she used to be on the court just looking. And one day, Cecile asked her, do you want to play netball? She said, Miss, I can't play. So then she sent a picture to Coach Obi, and Obi says to Cecile, no, no, we need her. We're looking for this sort of size and height, you know? And then Kelsey became our superstar. You understand? So like, you know, when she went to, she was very young. I remember when they were going to Botswana, we had to get permission from their parents, had to go to the lawyer to get permission for them to be, to as their guardian. And I remember when we were going through Gatwick Airport in London, Kelsey, she's tall over everyone, so she went ahead with the other players. But she had to come back, Mom, 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 you have to come up with me. You have to come up with me. Because immigration wanted to see the permission that, you know, for her age, that we had the permission for her to travel. So that was one of the players that you saw move quickly from not being able to play to be able to play.
And
Yeah.
now that you refer to the name Kelsey, I think she's also the athlete. The athlete.
Yes, she throws. She
Yeah,
throws
yeah. She
the
won.
ball thing.
Yes, she
Shot
won
put.
medals.
Yes,
Yeah,
she won character. Yes,
right. Yeah,
Kelsey, and then we have those as Carleen, Carleen Alexander. She too tall. When we went to St. Vincent, and when we played that championship, you know, and you saw the ability that she had, you know, to pull long balls and all of that. I think you know, we have gifted girls. And one of the things I also want to say, and to give credit to Coach Oberon and her team, which included Kathy and Williams. Pete Williams was also one doing physio with us. Mario was the physio too. Devon St. Paul. At the time, it was Miss Adele True Griffith. You know, you want to give everybody credit
yeah.
because, you know, it's not done by.
Yeah, and I'm actually
Yes,
looking at.
you see,
Yeah, and the
Scooby,
right.
yes, Nadine, who managed the teams earlier, you know, and you know, all the players. You see, we look as a real world class day. I'm telling you, this was Barbados.
And I also saw one where Anthony Modest, Nixon Modest was also probably
Yes, was in Barbados.
okay.
Yes, he did physio in Barbados at that qualifier. And
Right.
then we were actually working with Mr. Smith because I think, you know, honestly, I believe that a lot of sporting enthusiasts in Grenada was excited at the way we were going with the netball. I also want to say that you remember in 2018, just before election, when we had to go to Hong Kong. When we got disappointed in one end, like the whole country came with us to ensure that we got there because people were really happy. I also want to say kudos to Mr. Alan Bizinski too, because I remember when we came back from Netball Europe and the girls participated so well. 3 of the players were actually working with Hubbard. And what he did was did a private award ceremony for those 3, invited me as president, and he gave them a token for their contribution towards sports. And his company was really happy, you know, to be a part of that. And I pray that, you know, netball can continue to build on the platform that we would have left.
Okay, and talking about building, the netball is not an Olympic sport. So unlike football and probably track and field and other Olympic sport who probably may be able to, you know, get funding through Olympic solidarity or grants, etc. It means therefore that even though you may get some assistance from the Olympic Committee, there's no obligation because it's not an Olympic sport. And therefore, you're right, funding obviously is a very integral part of the program for netball, whether it's a domestic tournament, whether it's upgrading of the upgrading of personnel, whether umpires, players development, etc. Outreach programs. Funding has to be a part of that. How do you see, or the challenges you see ahead for the new executive of the Grenada Netball Association in ensuring that what you're talking about, when you're talking about building on that foundation, how do you see them, tackling these challenges?
What has happened during COVID time now with the America's Federation of Netball and the Caribbean Netball Association? What they have done, particularly the Caribbean Netball Association, I can speak to that because as we were not able to have the senior ranking tournament in Antigua last year, the governor of the central bank, together with the president of the CNA, under whose umbrella we were able to get this tournament run, they agreed that we would use the money to do training for our islands, which is the OECS, in governance, umpiring, and coaching. Now, this was done and graduation was on the 9th of December, and 19 people got certificates within the three top categories that I just spoke of. So AFNA is now doing an umpiring. They also did a governance course. So within the COVID time, and hence the reason why I'm saying that we need to follow the protocols in our countries and our communities so that at the end of the pandemic, we will be better equipped to move forward. So for example, in Grenada's case, the constitution that we have is dated way back to 1995. Several attempts were made to have it upgraded. That we were just about finished. Actually discussed with the same CNA, the company that was hired from St. Lucia to do that training. And I must say, Grenada was one of the only countries to have a constitution. We also worked, those of us who were on the governance training, Barbara Simpson, Kenisha Nelson, Tira Antoine, Frankie Bell, myself, Cecile Roberts, and Karen Filbert. We started on the governance, but at the end, it was only 4 of us, I think, got certificates because it was always with people's time in the night, on Zoom. However, on that governance, we were able to complete our strategic plan. So all those are there for the new executive to just run with and tweak as circumstances will dictate.
Okay.
And in terms...
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was saying in terms of umpiring, one of the accomplishments we had as well, in 2016 when we went to Newcastle, because Timmy, Letitia Cato, she used to play in Wales, couple of the people from Wales came to Netball Europe to see her. And one of that person was Jan Richard. And Jan was an umpire's trainer. So she said she was coming to Grenada after she met us. She was so excited. She said she's coming to Grenada that same July. She came and she was one of the last guests to be at Flamboyant Hotel. But what she did was come to our training and offered to do umpiring. And after she would have had about 9 people, 2 people got their preliminary in umpiring, which is Raul Douglas, which is Scooby, and Cecile, they got their preliminary. So we were trying to work on all planks in terms of developing the sport, not only for the players, but also for the officials and the umpires. As well, for coaching, under Minister Pear, through Oberon Peterson again, she offered free training when she came to do the first weekend with our girls in 2015. And then she said, you know, it is something she wants to impart her knowledge. She doesn't want to keep everything to herself. So Mrs. Simpson, Debbie Britton, Kathy Ann, lots of other people came, Scooby came to be part of the training. And then we engaged Mrs. Maureen Hall to come to Grenada to help with the ministry's coaches, which was 9 persons for that weekend. The government said they will take on such because what we recognize is that coaching need to be done from the grass, as we say, not only grassroots, but from the school level. And the coaches in the ministry are the one interacting with the kids from primary level up. So 9 of them started. They did the theory, and Mrs. Hall, I think, is still waiting for them to do the final portion, which is to do the plan so that she can come to do the theory. No, sorry, not the theory, the practical, so that they can get the level 1 coaching. So those are things that we had in the pipeline, but again, it's all to people's speed, because I cannot force you to want to finish a certificate in anything.
Well, you know, I'm glad you mentioned Obi, because I know there are folks who didn't really like her style of coaching and things like that. So, but you know, I was one who, you know, I had no apologies. And you know that I always came to her defense, because I got to know Obi quite a while now, and you know, I recall her, you know, her playing days, playing for Jamaica and then coaching, and she was among the that force to be reckoned with for the Jamaican. So I know her style of playing, I know her style of coaching, and I know what she did with Jamaica. And if you think Obi is, you know, is the aggressive type in terms of coaching, then in the cadre of coaches I know, she's the mild one, you know. She is, no, I'm telling you, she's the mild one, you know. But she did well for Grenada, and I think she brought a new style of coaching to the Grenadians. They, in terms of even the physical fitness, I think they never had that sort of experience before. Some of them spoke about the jog or the run to Granny Tang, and you know, these sort of things. So you know, when she saw the, you know, the sort of topography that we had, and wondered, hey, you know, come on, girls running to Granans and running. No. You have to build the legs. You have, you know, that I thought she brought something to Grenada that anyone who understudied Obi should be in good hands. But while we're on that, I just want to head over to the Sister Isle, because Sebastian Steele is saying credit to Mrs. Roberts for her efforts to promote and develop netball in Carriacou and Petit Martinique. And it's something I meant to ask you regarding the development of netball on the Sister Isles, you know?
Yes, because for the first time as well, we were able to have a team from Carriacou in our GNA. They came in 2017 in the B division. They won that division, moved to the A division. They now have 2 teams. We asked one person from Carriacou, Nadli. She also did the courses that we had with CNA in the lockdown. We also did a Zoom meeting with some people from Carriacou just at the end of the year. We were trying to go up there, because in drafting the new constitution, one of the things we want to do is to have Carriacou have their own little association or council. And then that person will be a part of the GNA executive, so that we can include them. We also, during 2018, we were engaging a couple girls to come down for training, because you know the difficulty in coming off island from home. I could remember one person named Connie Belfon. She had agreed that the person will live with her, but it didn't work out. Carriacou was always on our radar to have them as part of. In actual fact, what we did the first year, they came down for all their matches. But in the second year and third year, we had a up-down. So like Queen's Park Rangers went up, convent went up. So that, and we chose the clubs first that we knew were strong. And then we said for the other year, we would have other teams go. But as we say, with the pandemic, it stopped everything. But I want to thank Mr. Steele. He worked with me quite well in identifying what we can do to help Carriacou netball. And they do play a lot of netball in Carriacou, together with St. Vincent, because they're close by and they have this thing going on for years. So I think it's something that can be harnessed so that we can get the best of all parties.
Mm-hmm. And while we're on that aspect there, and even with Carriacou, as we know, club netball wasn't so much of a big thing. It's more the school-based tournaments.
Yes.
You know,
yes.
And Rudian Sylvan, who is based in Canada, is asking what part did the GNA play with school netball? As you know, even though the school netball, it comes under the auspices of the ministries of sport and education. You know,
True.
Obviously the Grenada Netball Association, in terms of the sanctioning, as a sanctioning body, will be involved in it.
Yeah, and one of the things we do, one of the things under my presidency, what I try to do is that when we had matches at Canteen, we try to have it officially done, meaning that you have the scorers not only for regional tournaments, but we have it also when we have our local tournaments, so that our umpires no longer have to walk with a book, that the scorers are there, and we have people like Gillian Romaine, Marlene used to be one in charge, Selma Phillip, Frankie, you know, quite a number of people, Nicolette Pascal, quite a number of people were in tune to doing that kind of thing under the tutelage of Miss Pilgrim. I mean, working under Miss Pilgrim, she always advocated for doing and keeping high standards. And at the time, I remember she was adamant that we do a lot of umpiring. And I think that is what we are trying to do now. What we have recognized as presidents when we went to World Cup in Liverpool is that we didn't have much people from our region on the umpiring panel. And we needed that. We needed to improve that, so that we are doing that they are doing now. I say we because I still feel a part of netball, to have that thrust. Because even if you get at the advanced level, before you can go to these international tournaments, you have to get to other level, what they call ITI or, you know, ITDI. So we're hoping and that we can push through in the Caribbean so that at the next World Championship, more people doing umpiring or officiating.
By the way, in terms of clarification, under the Constitution, the current Constitution, aren't you still part of the executive as the immediate past president?
Yes, I am. But I have to be cautious how I say we, because as IPP, you know, you are there. You are there to advise, and you know, I don't want to make it sound as if I'm still in charge. You know, it would not be fair to the new executive. So, you know, and it's just who I am. Whatever I'm in, I'm always committed to it, and maybe too overly committed. So I have to learn to, as I get older, to calm myself a bit. Don't get too anxious. But as I say, yes.
Yeah. But by way of no, and just by extension as well, you have officially handed over the presidency to the new president. Okay, that has been done already.
Yes, I did that yesterday afternoon. Yesterday afternoon, we had a meeting at Public Workers Union, where I shared handover stuff, and as I said, you know, the executive is not new to netball. It's just that some people were away from the court for a while. So it's not that they don't know the game, but it's just that they're back. Because, for example, Jackie and I served on the executive of netball during the tenure of Monica Joseph and Gloria Payne Banfield and Franca Bernardine. You know, so Jackie is part of netball. That's Connie's sister, and then Mrs. Miller, Allison as well played, umpired, but it's just that she wasn't in Tantine for a while. But their passion, with their passion, Sheldon, he plays men netball. He was on the national team for, because you remember in 2019 we hosted that regional tournament that did not complete after the storm.
Storm, yeah.
Yeah. So that too, and also Libot is a national player, as well as, well, Kenisha said she played netball from baby in the womb, because Karen
Karen.
apparently used to play when she was pregnant with her.
Yeah,
So she
Karen.
knows.
Yeah,
So
her mom
netball
is
is
a
in her DNA. Yes,
her mom is a netball junkie. And
yes, yes.
obviously coming
Oh,
from the Road Rangers, you expect that.
yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes, yes, yes.
yeah. So
So they have my full support, and you know what I
okay,
mean.
right. That's good to hear. So you're confident of the succession, and then also the continuity, because as you said, unlike the previous um president, who did not, probably stuck around to give you the guidance and the assistance, you decided that you will want to, stay with this executive and provide them with that sort of guidance and assistance during this transition period.
Of course, and live out my dream of seeing the game rise and continue rising, because it's not about me. I mean, I really don't play netball. I've never made a national team. I can play netball, and I don't know why I never made a national team, because I think I'm that good, Bascom. But 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 I love the sport daily, and because I remember in convent, you couldn't go to the netball court if you're not strong in your schoolwork, eh? With Miss Pilgrim. You know that. That's a rule. And I wasn't the most brilliant child in school, so I didn't even used to try to go around the court, you know? But
So
nevertheless,
so you played netball since in the days of, and school since in the days of Eleanor Pilgrim. Are you saying that?
yes, Miss Pilgrim taught me in school.
Wow.
Yes.
And she's still there.
Yes, and she's still there with all her advice,
Mhm.
and I want to thank her too for all that, because under my presidency, she helped me a lot, with no, 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 don't do that. Pilgrim, in the way she speaks, she says, no, 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 you aren't ready yet with that. You have to try that instead. And people like Monica Joseph and even Pauline St. John. And I also want to, on this forum, Bascom, say thank you to a lot of people who would have helped us on our journey through netball, especially when we made our initial tour to England. I remember, and again, despite what people may feel, Oberon Peterson Natty is a Grenadian. She is a Grenadian as well as a Jamaican, because she embraced us. She never held back on teaching what she knew, what she knows, and added to that, when we planned our trip, she did her separate planning with her Jamaican um, counterparts in England, like Kevin, David. We had this lady Maureen. She would drive the bus to pick us up at the airport. Then I remember on our first trip to Newcastle, we met Miss Patsy and her husband. Patsy said she was drawn to us by our tracksuit. Then when I said to her, I said, we don't have a place to stay when we are coming back from Newcastle. She said, we got a place. She gave us her place to stay. I mean, and I tell you, it happened when we were going Botswana again. She had us in a bigger house. She went to the smaller house. And there were just these people out there helping us through our journey. I remember when we were coming from Botswana, we didn't realize that we had to catch up a bus from the airport, and Pauline St. John paid for it, and with her credit card, because Netball didn't have a credit card. And then the Christmas 2017, she said to Royston, tell Glennis that's my contribution to GNA, because I told her we would raise funds and repay it. And there are a lot of people who were happy, as you say, with the rebirth of netball and seeing it move to a different level and trusting that, it will continue to rise. And as I said to you before, I wanted to also let the world know of the achievement of the girls who were on our national team so that they see what their contributions would have done to help. So we have, in terms of caps, as at July 1st, 2019, because we had no tour after that. The person with the most caps is Denise Cameron, and she comes from Queen's Park Rangers. Okay? The second highest is Cecile Roberts. She has 43. Denise has 43. Cecile has 35. Cecile comes from St. Joseph's Convent. Then Renisha Stafford has 29. She comes from Grenville Bulldogs. Shakira Fortune has 28. She comes from Grenville Bulldogs. Arissa Edgil has 20. She is Queen's Park Rangers. Kelsey Morel, that's the same baby one, she has 11. And Louis, who is Sherlin, she has 20. Carlene Alexander has 4. Shakira Colimo has 11. Rashida Chidik has 1. Sharon Jeremiah has 10. Renee Cooper has 13. Tiffany Frederick, 23. Letitia Cato, 20. Tahira McDonald, 4. Sabrina Sylvester, 6. And Nazi Francis has 1. So we have, quite a number of girls who would have moved with caps playing for the national team. And, sometimes you hear, who would have done 100 caps for New Zealand, no retiring. So these girls need to know that they have to continue playing. I don't know if I mentioned Diane Gordon. She has 27. Diane,
that's Diane is one of the twins.
Half, yes, Hafi. So Hafi, she stopped at 27 because she's now pursuing her to be a doctor. So she didn't go to the qualifier with us. That's when she entered SGU. So I think she's almost done and heading off to the US soon to do what they call residency. So I want to say, although we have netballers, we can see it's not only playing, but professionally they are moved on as well. So we've done quite a bit. So I want to congratulate her and all those who continue to study, because you have to marry education and sport.
There's one other person I believe you want to mention and you didn't mention. It's actually the patron of the Grenada Netball Association, the Governor General. In fact, I met her sometime last year here in New York, and we had a chat, and I can tell you that a big chunk of our discussion had to do with netball and her desire, to see that netball. And I know that she has been assisting wherever possible in terms of hosting the girls.
Very true.
Yeah.
Very true. Because when we came from St. Kitts and we won that year, she actually had something at her residence for the girls, and they were all excited. And I want to thank her for agreeing to be a patron, because what used to happen, we always had the wives of the Governor General, because they were all men, but now she had no choice but to take up the mantle. But she said she used to play netball at UWI. In actual fact, when CNA had the talent show in December, on December 13th, she was part of it, and herself and Rufina used to live in the same halls in UWI, I think in Trinidad. So she has the netball in her. She said she used to play netball. I think her mommy used to play netball. And it would be remiss of me if I do not mention losing people like Mrs. Dow. She passed on last year, August. Yes. And she was really, and I'm happy that when we started the award ceremony in 2017, she was one of those who had gotten her award for her contribution to netball. In actual fact, I remember Chester Humphrey was the one driving herself and Reggie up to Belmont Estate. We were able to give quite a number of people, Gloria Payne Banfield, Monica Joseph, Franca Bernardine, and we were going to give presidents as we go every 2 years, because there are a lot of presidents that I was not aware of. One of the things I also hope we can do in netball is to create a mural in the botanical gardens, because that's where international netball in the Caribbean started, on the dirt there in the botanical gardens on that flat area, Bascom. So we need to put a mural there with all our national players and their names and the years that they would have done their service to the country, so that, you know, we can keep history alive.
Oh, that's a big plans as immediate past president, as a member of the current executive. I'm hoping that you can put that on the table, because we need continuity, and in good spirit though, in good spirit, we need
In good spirit.
continuity, and we hoping that the executive can move on. But as we get ready to wrap up now, on the positive side though, you do see and a resurgence of the sport of netball, and especially from the grassroots level, and to an extent, and by extension, I should say, the outer parishes, because we know that it's strong when we're seeing the netballers from, whether it's St. Patrick and St. Andrew and St. David,
Yeah.
you know, playing netball. And I know there was a time when our national team, and under your presidency, our national team, most of the players were actually coming from the outer parishes.
Yes, indeed. St. Andrews, St. Patrick. You know, before being president of netball, I managed the national team from 1993 to 2003. And with that, what has happened is that the people from St. Patrick's have a unique style of playing. You know, in the days when you saw Kathy Ann play center, I mean, well, even now, as they say, she's retired, when they play for the ministry, she's as competitive as those who play now, the young people. Curly and Glood, they were ones who stuck out. You had, you know, Peter Lynn Olive, different one names I can't remember now, but Keisha Mitchell. You know, I also have to mention in the fundraising Bascom to go to Botswana, we raffled a car. And I remember Royston saying, "You sure you could raffle a car? You know, much people try to raffle a car and they can't even pay for the car." I said, "No, sir, we will raffle this car." And we were able to successfully raffle the car. And Keisha, as I remember her name, she was the one who won the car, our old netball. And she said, you know, the cashier was giving us so much trouble. She was so happy to win this car, paying $10. So, you know, I believe that we have the talent, that we can continue. But again, you can't force, you can identify talent, but you can't force them to play. But I want to advise that they should play because they love it, and not because somebody pushing you to do it. And people must use their individual minds and remember that there are two sides to the story and the truth. Because sometimes I could bring a story to you that sounds so nice, but it's really not the truth. And what I want people to do is, when you say you are committed to something, be committed to it, irrespective of. Be committed, because we will all be different. We see things differently. I love mangoes, you love plums. You love French cashew, I love golden apples. So, but together, we all exist on the planet.
Mhm. Yeah, but on the wrap up side though, I wanted to speak a little more on the whole issue of what you see going forward, and especially as it relates to the grassroots programs, you know, these sorts of things like that. So in showing that
In
we do have netballers in the future, you know, learning the basics, just as how you were
true.
able to identify the Kelsey, for example, and others,
Mhm.
ensuring that from a very early age, even at the primary school level, that they can play netball, learn to play netball, sorry, and develop all the way through.
Okay, and let me also say that the previous executive has started to do outreach. As I said, we went St. David's, we went St. Mark's. But again, it goes back to the point I just made about commitment. Because before we get into things, we could all identify what we need to do. In actual fact, last year, in our last council meeting before the COVID, we had a list of dates to go to which parish. Again, when you're ready to go and you set the date, Bascom is the president, Frankie, Scooby, that's it. President, Kathy Ann, somebody else. You know, I remember bringing a cousin of mine, Annie. But people are not, people say, Bascom, that they want to do. So that's why I want to beg person, let's stay committed. Netballers, you love the sport, you have to build it. Those who are national players, the future of netball should lie in your hands. Your hands. And that is why one of the tweak we are proposing for this new constitution is that members should not only be persons who are part of a club. You should be able to, you, Michael Bascom, should be able to be a member of the Grenada Netball Association, as well as is Rudy on in Canada, could be a
Yeah.
member. Derek James, a member. Marilyn, a member. George McLeish, a member. Somebody, you want to be a member? Valerie McDonald in England, Pauline St. John, you should be able to pay your fees in so that the sport can grow. Because if we're going to only wait on subscriptions and raise funds, because as I say to people, we are now at a time, Bascom, the ministry always helps us with transportation, I must say. They always. The driver, Mr. Grant, I want to thank him too, and Mr. B. They always there to pick up the girls, whether it's at the youth center or to take them home safely so their parents are happy. What I'm saying is that we have to seriously harness because based on the pandemic, we know our country is 100,000 strong. Our GDP is hinged on the occupancy of hotels and St. George's University. As I speak, we have no one in hotel. The school is functioning virtually. There are lots of funds that we are not having. I'm not saying that the government don't have, but they may not have to give sport as a priority because we have other people suffering in different areas. So we as netballers who can afford will have to take on the mantle of helping the sport in a different way. I think this is what COVID has come to do is that we come up with creative thinking, creative ways of doing things so that we can continue to survive.
Okay. Well, thanks for that. And I think this is what you were speaking about. This is Mitchell,
Keisha
right?
and the car,
Ah,
yes.
yeah, that was back then,
Yes,
right? Yeah.
that was back then. Yes, thanks for
See,
that, Basky. You have some real good pictures, boy.
I do have the archives there with that. That was back then. I think it would have been around
Yes.
2016, 2017 when the girls
No,
were
it was 2017. We were
17.
practicing for Botswana. Yes.
Yeah, Botswana. I'm seeing the girls
We
there.
are
Yeah,
heading to Botswana. Yes.
Keisha. Yeah. So that's
Yes.
it. Yeah. Yep. Just one comment before we go. Rudian is saying, I want to thank you for all that you have done for netball in Grenada and for the girls. Sorry you had to step down, but you did very well. And he says, thank you. And I certainly want to say thanks also.
You're most welcome. Thank you very much. And
Okay.
thanks, Basky, for always being there in my corner. And let me just say, not only saying yes to me, you would say to me, no, 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 not a good step. And I want to thank you for that. And that's what friends are for. And that is one of the disappointing things that I find that I am not one that do not take my criticism as I take my credit. So persons are free to say to me, Glennis, I think you made a bad call. I can explain myself and you can take it but I try to do things in the best of my ability, always for the benefit of humanity. So I want to take the opportunity also, Bascom, to wish you happy independence. It's not July 4th, but it's February 7th. To you and your family,
Yeah.
and to all the Grenadians outside in the diaspora who are listening. And also say to Coach Obi, happy independence. She's a Grenadian. I remember when you were going to Botswana, but she suffered to get to Botswana, but she got there. But I want to thank her for her commitment. And I think with her working with me, it also helped us to accomplish quite a bit. And I want to thank the girls and thank the past executive who would have worked with me in Tasha, Douglas, Veron, Louis, Chris, Alexander, Nicolette, Pascal, Libert Alexander, and people who would have worked before on previous executives like Janelle Andrews, Desiree Stevens, Dennis Boris, Nadine Letts. Yeah. So I think we would have done a lot. The journey was successful, but it was not me alone. So I want to thank everybody who was a part of it as well. Claudia, Alexis, and let me tell you, the names in netball are always repeating because we love the game. But hopefully one day we will get to the point that we would really want to be.
Yeah. Well, I myself want to thank you for your service to the sport, involvement in netball and the service you have rendered to netball during those years. And I'm looking forward to your contribution to the current executive, as being, and as I continue to say, as being part of the executive in terms of providing the assistance. My hope too is that at some point in time, when probably they get past the pandemic, they can give some serious consideration to the work started by a previous administration regarding the Constitution, because I think it's important that in post-pandemic, that they have the means, especially as it relates to their statutes and things like that. They put things in place to ensure that they can move netball to another stage, and a working plan. Where things have been going good, they can build on it, and in some areas where you were not able to accomplish that, they can do some work and get things going. That's my wish for the sport of netball.
Me as well, Bascom, and I think they are interested, because one of the first things they said last night is to set a Zoom meeting to look at the Constitution to see how quickly it can, because as part of my handing over, I stress the importance of having a Constitution that will guide us, an updated one, I would say. And let me not end this show by thanking my family, my children. I mean, they call the netball court home, so that if my aunt calls from New York, where is your mother? She's gone home. They call netball home, because as I said, I was committed to it. But I want to thank them immensely. My 4 children, I could have called on them all the time, Gavin, Carla, Terry, and Cecile, all the time to help me do this and do that and the other. So I want to thank them immensely. And all who continue to help, my friends, I say, can you do this? You do that. Who used to, when we have camp on weekends and children from the outer parish have nowhere to stay, I could call on Judy and say, could you hold 2 at your home and give them supper or whatever? And I want to thank people, because all of this is what helped bring us to where we are.
Yeah. Okay then. Well.
Bye-bye.
Bye. And the
See you next time.
All right. And the final thank you as well. That's Glynis Roberts, the former president of the Grenada Netball Association. She's the immediate past president, and as she indicated, as part of the Constitution, she remains a part of the executive in terms of providing whatever assistance they need, and in terms of guidance. And I like that form of continuity, that even though she did not seek re-election, or she stepped down, whatever, she remains a part of the system, and no bad blood, just to ensure that things go. Michael Richards saying, kudos to you, Mrs. Roberts. You did an awesome job in helping to promote and develop the sport in in Grenada, and I'm certain that your services in terms of sports will not go unnoticed, and don't be surprised that you may be called upon to serve in some other capacity or some other sport, because what we need are people with that level of commitment, that level of commitment to administrators, and you probably can bring that sort of commitment and that sort of energy probably in another sport. The whole issue of your ability to do the fundraising and connect with people and things like that. So as one person told me, something about Glynis, she is a very decent and very convincing beggar. But the beggar in the sense that she knows how to get things, and probably it worked for her with netball during her time, because for all that they achieved in terms of the girls, and one of the things I must say, that it was an opportunity for the girls to travel, and I don't think in their lifetime they would have been able to probably dream of going to, whether it's Botswana, going to Hong Kong, going to Europe, these sort of places. So, but they were able to, and all because of Glennis' ability to say, hey, this is what we want to do. This is the opportunity for those girls, and we'll do it, And I also want to, on a personal note, want to also thank Obi, because, I recall traveling to Grenada, and the day I arrived, even without changing, I headed to the court to look for Obi and the girls, training, and I did an interview the same evening, with Obi. I just love her style of coaching. I love how she got the girls at first, they were a bit, terrified, I would say, because her style of coaching is obviously a different style. But as she explained to them, if you have to compete internationally, and I think some of them bought into it after, when they started traveling, when they started, experiencing the, that level of competitiveness out there. When you see the Jamaicans, for example, and you wonder how they get in contracts in Australia and New Zealand, and you speak to them or you listen to them, and you hear all the, about the coaching and all these sort of things, you understand why. You have to be tough. Netball is not a softy game, as they'll say. Netball is a tough sport, you have to be very competitive if you want to be there. Timmy will also tell you, that's Letitia Cato will tell you, when she went off to play professional netball, that the girls that are playing now, and mind you, it's not just the Caribbean, the girls in Africa now, if you watch, they play netball, those from Botswana, those from Mali, South Africa, they're very tough, so you have to be tough, and I also, our coaches have to understand that it's more than what they're thinking, and unless they get their mind outside of the shores of Grenada, get their minds outside, they think too much about what's inside, and too much of naiveness and things like that. So, and who coaching and who not coaching, and who this and who that. Listen, we have to move past that thing. If you have to make a contribution, you have to make a contribution. Coaching in Grenada, nobody gets paid for that. And even when Obi came there, the sort of services she rendered, I don't think she could have probably bring her services, somewhere else, and get handsome pocket change here and there and things like that. So basically, she was given the services free, I would say, But I'll talk to Obi in probably about a month or two, because I have some things to talk to her about regarding netball, not just Grenada, because she has the Grenada experience, but netball in the Caribbean. So once again, Glennis, I want to thank you, and I am seeing some of the folks saying thanks to you as well for your service to netball. I'm certain it won't be the last time we'll be speaking about that. And hopefully, as I said, hopefully you may be able to provide that service to another sport. I'm hoping that to another sport. Folks, don't forget, join us on Saturday when we'll be speaking to Hurricane Sports Club. I can tell you now, Norris Bowser Wilson, Nurse Bowser Wilson, will be our guest on Saturday's program. And then next Saturday, God's willing, Police Sports Club, that's the Royal Grenada Police Force, their sports club, will be the feature as we continue the discussion with sports clubs and their development and their contribution, their successes and achievements over the years. I want to thank you once again for being part of the program. And thank you, Glennis, for accepting that invitation. And hopefully I'll be able to speak to the new president and give her some time so she can wet her feet and get more involved, and then we'll chat about our plans for netball in the future. Thank you very much for tuning in, and do join us on Saturday, 1 o'clock Eastern time. That's 2 o'clock Eastern Caribbean time.